That's okay. One time I got my foot stuck in between a boat and a golf cart.
That's like the most suburban injury I've ever heard. You slipped coming out of a hot tub too?
No. I had to think for a second though, just in case.
Recapping Romantasy. Hot takes on hot literature. Who are we?
We are me, Emma.
I am Maura.
I am Tabitha. Recapping Romantasy contains mature content from fairy smut to dragon rider torture to monster genitalia. Be sure to check the episode notes for content warnings and links to our social media. So, sort of related to the book we read today, I have an embarrassing story to start us off. Less of a story, more of an example of how marketing works on me. So I had to order new contacts, like for my eyeballs. It was sort of a process that took the better part of a week because I had to get another prescription because mine expired, and then I ordered them, and then the people I ordered them from were like, oh, we don't see your prescription. But then when they finally sent them to me, they arrived with a sample of a single colored contact.
Oh, no.
So then I put the colored contact
just
in.
One?
Yeah, just one.
That's so weird. Good marketing.
Yeah. So I put it in, and it's paler than my natural eye color. And I'm like, I put it in, looked in the mirror, and I thought, oh my God, this marketing works on me because I want to buy more because I think I look like a vampire.
The second you told this story, I knew exactly where it was going to go. Mm-hmm. That's why I was giggling, not because I'm making fun of people without perfect vision like myself, but because I knew.
Because they sent it to me in my prescription.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, it is. I want to buy them now.
You should.
But, like, why do I care if I look like a vampire? I'm a fully adult woman.
Yeah, you can have fun.
I have a Hello Kitty grocery bag. Like, it's okay. Live your life.
All right. Well, the book we're here to talk about today.
Can you wear them next time? Did you buy them?
No, but I do have them in my cart.
Okay. You should purchase them, and then the next time we record, I want to see them.
I'm a corporate shill.
No, you're not. I'm the corporate shill at this table.
All right. So the book that we read this week is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. Is that it?
Broadbent?
Carissa Broadbent. Yeah.
All right. How would you describe it? It is about a human woman growing up alone in a world of vampires.
It's Hunger Games, but with vampires.
It's vampire Hunger Games, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In my notes here, I had to make a glossary of terms because there's a lot of confusing world building going on.
Did anyone listen to it? Is there an audiobook for it?
No, there's no audiobook for it, so I have no idea how to pronounce these words.
Damn it.
It's going to be best guess.
We're all just going to struggle together.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. Getting started. So the prologue. We get a very underworld opening scene with a dead human family and the sole girl child as a survivor. The vampire king, who comes into the ruins, decides that he likes this feral child and keeps her. The impression here is that there was some sort of war and that this is the aftermath.
Yeah, so he calls her a little serpent. So there you have your connection to the title. But it's really like the rape and pillage moment in warfare after a city has been taken and the victors have to figure out what to do with the inhabitants. So certain vampires are going around killing for fun and are about to kill this little girl when Vincent, the main dude, stops them and is like, wait, she's fighting back. We must take her, or I'm going to take her and raise her as my own.
During these interludes that are before every section, they never say the names of the characters. They're just like a girl, a man, stuff like that. But they're talking about the main characters. Yeah. I mean, it's not even meant to not be obvious.
Yeah.
Okay. So, part 1, Dusk. Our nameless protagonist is hunting vampires in the human quarter of a city at night. She lets us know that there are different breeds of vampire. And the ones that control, I guess, this city, the ones that are in charge right now, are called Hiaj. Okay, and these ones are distinct for having bat-like wings. For some reason, vampires have wings in this book.
And they're magic wings. Yes. They come and go.
Now, this is counter to the, what were the other ones called? Rishan vampires who have feathered wings.
Yes.
Which we will see later.
Yes.
I will be honest. I did a really bad job reading the first 3 chapters because I was like, I was in such a book slump when I started this that I don't know anything about the different people. I couldn't tell you what their names were, whatever. it was just all noise to me.
Yeah.
So then when it started mattering, I was like, who, what, where?
Yeah,
why?
I even searched online, and there's like a wiki for this series,
Oh,
but
is there?
there's nothing filled out in it. It's just like the skeleton.
The fandom is not doing their job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I can be the one who does it.
Please do.
So she, goes after this vampire. She slices the wing, stabs it a bunch, and kills it. The human family watching just stares at her. So the obvious sort of intent here is that she is human but doesn't really connect with other humans.
She's not like other humans.
True. She's not.
The it girl of the human population.
So before going home, which is the palace, she stops to visit a human friend who's an old lady who gets paid to let vampires drink from her. The protagonist, whose name we now know is Araya, begs her friend Ilana to leave town before the start of the Kajari.
Yes.
Which we will explain soon. Ilana talks shit about her adopted dad, whose name is apparently Vince.
Yeah.
Vince.
It was like the most normal name in this book.
It was. But, I liked Ilana.
Well, it's Vincent.
Oh,
but-
yeah, that's true. It's
Vince.
Vincent. But I liked Ilana. She was like an old wizened prostitute, and she had that vibe, and like she smokes cigarillos, which I just really liked from an aesthetic perspective.
Yeah, because she like let the other humans drink from her like as payment. So
Humans?
oh my god, I'm sorry. Vampires.
They're not doing that.
I will say my word choosing, which is not a term, has been poor today. And every conversation I've had leading up to this, I've been like, that's not the word I wanted to use, but it's the word that came out. So just prepare. Be prepared. Well, there we go again. Be prepared, everyone. You also forgot to mention what I think is like hysterical. Araya didn't know what a pineapple was. And she was like, obviously Alana made up this word. Like, she literally thinks that Alana is trolling her. Just like amazing vibes from this woman.
Araya sneaks back to her room just as Vince, the Nightborn King, and her adoptive dad comes in. He is there to help train her as she is preparing for the Kajari. This is a tournament of vampires held every 100 years. She is participating as the only human, which seems like a bad idea.
Terrible idea.
Yeah, not good.
So they spar, she pins him, and he threatens to use magic, which is something Araya has never really been capable of using effectively. We get a bit more information about how Vince raised her to be hypervigilant for all the vampires who want to eat her, especially when she is actively bleeding and it puts them into bloodlust.
I know this is like the vampire trope, the bloodlust thing, but I can never stop myself from thinking, like, what do humans like do when they have their periods in the vampire world? It's always conveniently left out. Like, do they talk about it in Twilight? I don't think so.
That was about to say Twilight.
Do they? I don't think they do.
No, they don't. And that was one of the things that I remember fans and people critical of the book series talking about, like, well, she's this deeply afraid of blood. What does she do when her period hits? What does Edward do when the period hits?
That's more my point.
How does all of this work? And the answer is just not any answer at all.
Nothing. Yeah,
Nothing.
There's no answer ever.
No,
It's kind of like the bathroom thing. They never talk about that, which I understand why. But this I feel affects the world, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It would.
They could just say, like, she spends a week in her room.
Right.
And that would solve that problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Then it feels like
Bar
a
the
little
door.
Omega-verse somehow.
Yeah.
He tells her to change so they can go to a party and scope out the other competitors. They head to what is basically a really awkward meet and greet party of competitors for the Kajari. Vince leads her around and points out people's strengths and weaknesses. She sees Ibrahim, a vampire, like teen, injured and mutilated by his parents so that he doesn't become stronger than them. He is participating for the Kajari for familial honor, basically.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting piece of world building that they did that to Ibrahim, like, because it really does point out that immortality would absolutely fuck shit up.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. And also like totally fucked up that his parents are the ones who like maimed him basically.
Well, yeah, that's so he doesn't inherit their land.
Well, that's what I mean.
But that's the whole point of having children. So you would think like birth control would be a bit more
I wonder
robust.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, it only seems like there's a few children. So maybe it's
accidental.
Or like kind of like in Bride, it's really hard to have kids if you're a vampire.
They don't really go into how hard it is.
But like what about the poor untitled vampire families? Like how do they function? Do they also kill their children, or do we need people to work on the farm?
Yeah, that's a good point. We don't really know about vampires that aren't part of like the court system.
Yeah. It's just the poor humans. Literally.
Well, maybe they get into that in the other books. There's like 5 other books in the series.
There's like 3, I thought.
There's a novella, and there's another standalone, and there's a sequel to this.
Yeah, I'm reading the sequel.
But there will be, I think, 4 more she's planning in the series that will cover the other courts.
I was going to say, not all the same characters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Vince's head of guard, Jasmine,
whatever. Yeah, we can do whatever you want.
Gets a little twitchy around Araya's blood, so Araya scoots away. As she goes, she notices a guy staring at a painting of a falling Rishon vampire. So remember, ones with wings. Mm-hmm. Here's a quote about this guy. He wore a deep purple jacket cut tight against his frame, a bronze sash wrapped around his waist. Our boy out here looking like Aladdin.
Yes, very much.
Another quote about this guy. His hair was dark red, nearly black, and fell across his shoulders in rough waves. An unusual length, neither the flowing nor crop styles favored by the House of Knight's court. Guys, is this a mullet?
It could be, but also I think it's more like Cassian type hair because ladies love just enough hair to stick in a sloppy top knot.
Yeah, I did look up some fan art of this halfway through, and like, I mean, spoiled in the end, but like I knew what was gonna happen, so it's fine. I mean, the end couple, but I think it's like, they give him hair like Hozier. I don't know how to say his name. Hozier, whatever. Live too close to Illinois. But I think like a modern mullet would be hot. You know, like a wolf cut.
I think a wolf cut was what she was probably intending.
Yeah,
but I prefer to read it as mullet.
I don't really think that men can pull off mullets. I think women can.
You should look on Pinterest. There's a lot of men who can pull them off.
I don't think so. I'm gonna hard no.
Still better than a buzz cut.
Oh God, the buzz cut.
Vince brings Booze to her room and talks a little about the Kajari he won 100 years ago. Or was it 200? I couldn't remember.
I think it was every 100 years.
I think it was every 100.
Was that the one he won, though?
Yeah.
100 years ago.
Yeah. No, the one that he won was like 200 years, but it's every 100.
Right.
What happened the 100 years ago then?
Somebody had a different wish.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I digress.
He reminds her that she doesn't have to do this. She thinks that she has to prove that she is worthy and not just a prey animal, which is what she feels like as a human. Mm-hmm. If Araya wins, she is given a gift by Nyaxia.
That's how I said it.
Yeah.
It felt like too much emphasis on the Y. But
Nyaxia, who is the goddess and patron saint of vampires. And she's going to wish to be Vincent's Coriate.
Yeah.
Coriate. Which is basically kind of like being made into a vampire without the risks. It creates like a soul bond.
Yeah.
And it is mentioned that 2 out of 3 attempts to turn humans into vampires results in their death. So they don't want to try to turn her because they're afraid she'll die. So this way she will be bound to Vince and share his power, but without the risk. She feels that this means she could both find and save her human family that she knows she's from and also be a real daughter to Vampire Daddy.
So the 2 out of 3 thing being too risky, like he'd rather her fight dozens of vampires in an arena-style tournament instead. I'm not quite sure how these odds work out, honestly.
I feel like it's the like taking control of your
fate
it's
shit, like a control thing. I totally get that.
Yeah.
But it's also just like, man, I don't know. 2 out of 3 versus... how many people were in this competition? 20,
well,
30?
You don't know the chance. I feel like there was like 50, but like you don't know the chances of you winning. So,
no.
You know.
So she falls asleep. She dreams of what seems to be her human family, and then she wakes violently and realizes that it is not the dream she's hearing, but she has been transported to the pitch black somewhere. She realizes that this means the Kajari has started.
Cool. Love this. Just get right to the action. No waiting around.
Yeah, there's like a lot of jump cuts, I feel, in this book.
All right, so part 2, Full Moon, Interlude. Another flashback to when Araya was young and new at the palace. Vince had to coax her out of hiding and promised to be the only person who never hurt her. That sounds manipulative, but I guess in a world of vampires, it is kind of true.
He's super manipulative, but also it took me to like the 3rd interlude to start seeing it. But like, I feel like these interludes were like very purposeful, kind of like how the little snippets of like Lowe's thinking in Bride were like very like well thought out and planned. Usually they just seem like kind of like fun little information that I didn't know where to put anywhere else. But I was like, this is like so purposeful and like well planned out. Like right on, author.
Just as an aside of the worst example of that kind of thing I have ever seen in my life.
Tell me.
Anne Rice's book, Queen of the
God.
Damned.
Oh my God.
Don't you like her?
I do.
Okay.
It was one of the first series I ever became obsessed with. Also about vampires, obviously. Yeah. So her husband, what the fuck was his name?
Who cares? Anne Rice's husband is his name. Feminism.
Paul, I don't know.
Anne Rice's husband.
Yeah.
There we go.
He was a poet.
Okay.
And she loved him like way too much. And she put in this book his poetry at the beginning of every chapter.
Oh.
And it was the shittiest poetry I have ever read in my life. And I'll tell you, I would read this poem and then read the chapter and then be like, I don't see how that poem applied to this. So then I would go back and I would reread the poem and I'd be like, no, this is dog shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm saying they're usually so disconnected.
Yeah.
I'm like, you could like just put this chapter somewhere else. Just put this information anywhere else.
Yeah. She figures out she has been transported to the Moon Palace for the tournament. She is effectively blind in the darkness. She tries to stay calm, but in groping for her knives, she cuts her palm. Great. So now she smells like delicious human blood.
But like, again, what if she was on her period? It's never addressed.
She was just super lucky that
Yeah.
she wasn't.
Also, you said Moon Palace, like so funny.
Yeah, I know. Those two O's together.
I loved it
the
though.
Moon Palace.
She starts moving up a staircase slowly in the dark where she can hear screaming in other rooms. It seems like there's a bunch of humans being eaten somewhere. That's what she thinks she hears. She recognizes one of the voices as that of her human friend, Ilana. But, like, what can she do about it? In the dark, a vampire grabs her and tells her she can't save them and to protect herself instead. She knows that, but also she stabs him, so he lets her go. She eventually finds her way to an old greenhouse, which seems to be a good place to avoid vampires since, the sun can get in. So she sets up camp.
I was horrified in this chapter. It was great writing, but mostly because it's dark. I'm so afraid of the dark for like a 30-something. It's pathetic. When I go on vacation with people, I have to say, can we like crack the bathroom door or something, like, or like the window?
See, I've never been afraid of the dark.
Yeah, you thrive in it.
Yeah, I have to admit, in rooms where I'm in complete and utter darkness, I'm just like, yes.
No.
Exactly. No. I feel comforted.
I hate the dark. I don't really like bright.
Lock me in a tomb.
Bright. I don't really like bright light either. I kind of vibe with overcast.
Yes.
If everything was overcast always, I would probably have to start taking more vitamin D, but I love it.
Okay, so Araya waits until the sun is high the next day to venture out of her hiding place. She observes that the Moon Palace does indeed seem to change its floor plan randomly. She wanders through the carnage of the night before until she finds her friend's body. As she reflects on how they met and how Ilana was her only human friend and how humans are so pathetically weak, she realizes one of the vampires who killed in a frenzy last night is sleeping in the room, and she kills him.
Rock on.
She takes Ilana's scarf, then burns her body on the balcony. At nightfall, they are all called to come together in the hall. Araya realizes that the floor mosaics are made of bone and teeth just for some spooky vibes.
Love the vibes.
Yeah. They are being spoken to by the minister.
I don't know. There's a lot of AEs in here.
Yeah. The highest priest of Nyaxia, who is like 2,000 years old. He has solid white eyes. It's very creepy. He lays out their oath that they have to take for this, and that they will have 5 trials, unknown in detail at the moment, 3 weeks apart from each other, and that only one person will survive. Also, the goddess basically says it's not ideal, but it's okay if contestants kill each other in defense while within the Moon Palace.
And then, God, the anxiety that I felt. Like, oh, great. At least it's in defense, so.
Yeah, only in defense.
Then, a feast. Araya grabs some food and moves to a dark corner. She sees a guy looking around frantically. Eventually, in the other room, he finds his brother dead. His brother being the vampire that Araya killed earlier. And he comes back in, causing a huge scene. He seems ready to attack everyone around him, but then someone tells him that it's his brother's fault for being an idiot. He calls the man who sassed him Rain Ashraj.
Oof.
Rain Ashraj.
That's a last name.
Yeah.
I don't think I remembered what it was.
Araya realizes that this is the man who tried to help her the night before and she stabbed in the thigh. This was also the man with the mullet.
Yeah. Or wolf cut.
Yeah.
Potential mullet.
Dealer's choice.
So the random vamp is like, you did this. And Rain is like, no, but I wish I had because he sucked.
That guy's so cool.
The vamp goes for his sword. Rain tells him not to. He still does it. Rain throws him against the wall and kills him with the Asteris, which is the most powerful magic a vampire can wield. It is pure energy derived from the stars.
Okay.
And not a lot of people can wield it.
No. And it also like ghosts people.
Yeah.
And I have a hot take that I just came up with right now. What is it with these authors and just being like, do you know what's the coolest, baddest power out there? Misting people.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know who does it? Rhysand.
Yeah.
Do you know who also does it? This guy, Rain.
Yeah.
Do you know who also does it? The purple guy from the Marvel movie, so I can never remember his name.
Thanos.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I wonder if that's because it was in Marvel.
I know. I was literally thinking about that, but I was like, I don't remember what year everything came out.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Araya leaves the Moon Palace that night to meet with Vince under a bridge like common trolls. He gives her some healing potion for her hand and also 2 fancy swords. Don't laugh at my misspelling.
I almost made a joke
on healing.
I almost made a joke on it when I was reading it because I was the last person to do the notes and I wanted to be like, ew, gross.
So here is a quote about her swords because they come up a lot in the rest of the book. They were short and delicate, designed for dual wielding as I preferred. They were impossibly light for their size. The blades curved, gracefully polished black steel with red marks etched into the flat, long swirls of decorative smoke, and stark staccato glyphs locked into a dance. So they're like scimitars or samshears.
That's it.
Also, the blades have poison in them.
Yeah.
Yay.
He gives her poison to like put in them too.
Lace them
Yeah.
with.
She needs the help,
Refill.
you guys.
She gets back to the palace and runs into Rain, who is like, hey, what's up? What are you doing? Araya thinks about how he's handsome, but not like in a normal, pristine vampire way. Like he has an asymmetrical face.
Adam Driver? Oh,
I literally thought as I was reading this, do we have another Adam Driver on our hands?
I know. I was like, this has to be Adam Driver, right?
I actually didn't think Adam Driver at all. And now
God.
that it's here and you've put it in front of me, I will never stop.
Okay, time out.
They always
time
talk about
out.
how he's so big, too.
He's so big, okay? He's got luscious locks, weird face. Okay? Okay? Okay?
Oh my God.
He hates his quote-unquote dad, the guy who turned him. This girl, Araya, she's
Ray.
her parents are dead.
Oh no. Oh no.
What if this is a Raylo fanfiction? What did we walk into? It's
Oh my God.
everywhere.
That's going to be the reveal at the end of our podcast, is that everything we've ever read is actually Raylo fanfiction.
Let's go back. Let's go back through everything and reattach some names, shall we?
Oh my God. I'm gonna think about all the Akatar books in such a different way.
Okay, so they banter, or at least he banters. She brusquely tries to end the interaction. They are summoned to the General Assembly room. Araya muses on the House of Blood vampires, who are one of the 3 houses. Nothing is said about them having wings, but I believe the House of Blood vampires all have some sort of blood curse.
Yeah, I will say, as I was thinking about this, the other 2 houses seem kind of like equal in strength. And then this house is like the poor, sad, like cousin. Like
This is like the weirdo house.
Yeah. Like they're sick all the time. They don't have wings. They do have like weird magic that I think is more powerful than the other houses. But
Yeah, this is like the inbred line of family
just
tree.
gonna say, this is like your little nerd sibling who, like, you know, you guys are all good at sports and they're like, I just like to read, you know. I don't know why they got that voice.
See, I think it's more like the little sibling who likes to like dissect roadkill, and you're like,
Ew.
you're like, I can't associate with this kid.
Yeah. The one who's randomly into like taxidermy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have any cousins who are into taxidermy. Do you?
Unfortunately, this would probably be me.
Yeah, I was just.
That's on Tabitha. I
Are
don't
we
have
describing Tabitha right now?
that. She is the House of Blood.
Quick, which house are we?
Well,
Okay, you're obviously House of Blood.
Obviously.
I don't think we
what's
know
Maura?
enough about the House of Shadows yet. 'Cause
Which one's Vincent's house?
Night?
Night.
House of Night. We don't really learn anything.
So
about
who
the
wants
House
to
of
be
Shadows.
feathers? Who wants to be bat?
Oh, I was gonna say, I feel like I would probably be House of Night just because my parents are weirdly religious. I don't know. I feel like that checks out. You know what I mean?
That's fine. I'll be Rashawn. We're good.
Okay, anyway, suddenly everything disappears. Araya is now in a coliseum with a roaring crowd above the contestants. As she gains her bearings, she sees that they are all separated into glass enclosures with about half a dozen other contestants and some monsters that she calls demons.
Have you ever seen How to Train Your Dragon?
Yes.
A long time ago.
Okay, in the first movie when they're like fighting in the weird dragon pit and there's like the cage above them and everyone's like cheering them on like it's a WWE fight.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I picture the Coliseum looking
I
like.
can see that, just like maybe times 100.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, way bigger.
Way bigger. Yeah.
So, of the monsters, here's a quote. They moved on all fours, hairless and dark gray, with blackened veins that pulsed beneath their skin.
Ew.
Serrated black claws capped 2 long fingers on hands made for grabbing and killing. Their faces, flat with sharp cheekbones, slit noses, and white mucus-coated eyes, were mostly mouth, which extended from pointed ear to pointed ear, dripping with blackened saliva over layers of jagged teeth.
Ew, gross.
Yeah.
It is.
One of the people in her little glass bubble is Rain.
Nice.
So Araya gets a good stab into one's mouth, but it still doesn't take it down. They realize as they fight them that they can't seem to kill them no matter what they do. She also suspects that these are transmogrified bloodborne vamps which have succumbed to their curse. Araya sees one flinch as another one is struck, and she realizes that they are all linked a little. A head monster, much like the Venom in Iron Flame, but this book was written first.
The implications of that sentence, I love it.
Yep.
And if it is indeed a transformed vampire, then that means that they need to destroy its heart. So she manages to communicate this to Rain, and they make their way towards the special head monster. But on their way there, Araya gets hit with an arrow and swarmed by monsters.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So she's pinned, stabbing away, when Rain pushes his way in, stabs the head monster, and when it is thrashing, Araya stabs its heart. That does it. Rain tosses the monster to the side, and she refuses to take his hand to stand up despite her gnarly puncture wound.
She's a badass.
She is. But this is like the beginning of my shock that Araya, despite her weak humanness, can just walk off a deep puncture wound. But I guess there are reasons for this later. I'm not going to get into that here. But yeah, it's just like she's a human. She's with all of these vampires. She just got shot with an arrow. She's cool. Everything's fine.
Maybe that's how Vince trained her. Maybe this is like
Rub some
she's
dirt
like
in it.
in a trance, like it's not really happening.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she's probably have some like adrenaline rush, but also I think at this point in the book, nothing really has been foreshadowed yet, except for like I guess this is the first piece, if you will. At this point, I just assumed that she was like every other human in a fantasy book and just like capable of fighting through a ridiculous amount of injuries, a la like Black Widow, but also Feyre and Akatar and every fucking human in Fourth Wing, like just magically better at being hurt.
After they manage to kill this thing, a doorway opens up back to the Moon Palace, but before going through, Rain gets the attention of his friend who's in the enclosure next to them, so he can signal to her what to do with the beasts. Araya notices that this woman is wielding fire magic, which is crazy, because vamps can't usually do that sort of magic. Araya goes through the portal and immediately goes back to her greenhouse. Her wounds are so bad that she only has enough medicine to heal one, so she decides to go meet Vince under the bridge again. Before she can leave, Rain visits the greenhouse. He sits down and looks at her and I don't know. Obviously, she thinks she's handsome but doesn't realize it yet. So she suddenly has a bad memory resurface of what seems to be her vampire boyfriend attacking her. They banter. He asks her to ally herself to him and Misha. That's how I said it, Misha.
I said Mish.
I said Misha. It could be Mishi.
Mishi.
Or Mish.
Miche.
Or Mish.
Misha.
There's
I'm
no
gonna say-
accent over that E.
I
I'm
like
gonna say
Misha.
Misha.
Okay.
That's the most like a real name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
She could be French. Mish.
Mish. This is the woman who had fire magic that we just saw for the upcoming trial that traditionally requires an ally. He also invites her to share the tower apartment they claimed.
So my brain immediately went to throuple energy.
A little bit,
yeah.
I don't know. She read so much to me like Alice that I like from Twilight that I was like, she's probably just like a weird sister character.
I was going to say they have big sibling energy.
Yeah.
That's very true.
She balks, obviously, and threatens to stab him. He tells her to find him if she changes her mind.
You forgot to say the best part of the banter, which is she's like profusely bleeding and he obviously can smell it. And he's like, and let me tell you, you smell fucking delicious.
Gross.
It's blood, you guys.
She drags her nearly bloodless body to the bridge, and Vince does not make an appearance. She starts thinking, oh God, I really am going to bleed to death. As she gets back to the Moon Palace, she grabs some food, but before she can get to the greenhouse, she gets attacked by a vampire who is silly with bloodlust. He manages to stab her in the side, creating yet another wound.
Yeah, so I need a medical professional from a Trauma 1 hospital to explain this to me. Like, she drags herself to a bridge. Who knows where this bridge is located? She's already injured. She drags herself all the way back. And then she gets yet another wound. She's like, I can do stuff after this, sure.
And somehow through this whole thing, she's fucking hungry. Yeah. I was so baffled by that whole thing. I was like, number one, just like die in your greenhouse in peace, okay? Why are you going to get food? Well, I have a head cold for like 2 days, and I'm like, I don't think I can eat anything. I still do because I love food.
She ends up killing him, this random vamp, but is so delirious that she makes her way up to the tower.
She's climbed stairs.
Yeah, she climbs stairs.
It doesn't say how many. It's
a tower, though.
Yeah, that's true.
So she slithers up the stairs, knocks, and then passes out.
Did you ever crawl up the stairs as a kid?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not like as a baby, but like when you're going up the stairs and you're just kind of like a dog.
Literally all the time. I lived in a weird old farmhouse with very steep
that's
stairs.
exactly how I picture her walking up. With a little less energy, but that movement.
I grew up in a place that didn't have 2-story houses.
Oh.
It was all ranch houses.
Again,
so whenever
just exposing my privilege.
Part 3, Waning Moon. So another interlude, flashback. Araya is 10 and asking about her human family, all dead. She asks Vince to turn her, but he says he can't because turning vamps often fails and ends in death, like we know. She asks if there's another way, and he basically tells her about the wish that she can get if she wins the Kajari. So this is when Araya learns about this.
I kind of hate that it's called a wish.
Yeah. I think they call it a gift a lot, too.
Oh, okay.
So Araya comes to in a room with Rain and Misha. Do I need to describe his wings? Is that something that girls are into?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would say if they're bat wings, absolutely. I'm not sure about the feathers thing. Mm-hmm. Where do we land on feathers?
I don't know. I feel like
pretty.
Sarah J. Maas made the wings like the new gray sweatpants.
She really did. Mm-hmm.
Of the wings, deep black, the gloss of feathers reflecting warm strokes of lantern light, oil slick sheen of reds and purples and blues.
Pretty.
Yeah. So Misha runs over to talk to her, and Orion notes that her demeanor is like way more bubbly than most vampires. They also give her the head of the guy who tried to kill her and are kind of put out when she isn't grateful. It's notable that, again, this was blood-borne vampire, and he nearly succumbed to the disease.
So I kind of thought of Misha as a friendly cat giving her person the gift of a dead mouse and expecting praise and is confused, and the reaction is disgust.
To me, she read very much like a golden retriever. Like, day one, she was, like, smiling, happy about killing people, giggling, blah, blah, blah. Again, kind of like Alice. She enjoys life. She likes giving hugs. She's definitely golden retriever, handing over a slobbery ball and is like, please throw it, please play with me. And you're like, ugh, God. Now, Araya, she gives black cat energy. Also, in this scene, Rain tells Misha to, like, slow down and act more human around her so she can be more comfortable. I don't know what I was trying to say here. And like, what's more dog-like than telling someone that they need to calm down?
True.
Cats created chill.
Except for my cat, man. Last night she was trying to like pat me in the eyeball.
Yeah, I was actually writing this as my cat was like dive bombing off my bed. So
I'm like, chill, really chill.
Also, side note, we have discussed before about how sometimes in a book, if somebody says like, this is what this person's appearance is, I'll just be like, no.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Tell me.
For some reason with this main character, Araya, she read as a pale blonde to me.
Oh,
what does she actually look like?
Dark hair. Like black hair.
To be honest, again, I just self-insert.
No, I thought like thick, long, straight, almost white blonde hair. It just felt more to the character to me. Yeah. And so I was like, no, I'm just ignoring where you're saying raven black hair.
Raven black.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Interesting.
What did you picture for Misha?
I think like a mousy brown. Mm-hmm. It's like an average brown shade.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm odd about this. I don't really picture characters in my head.
Yeah. I will be honest, I do sometimes have a hard time.
Yeah.
Especially when it's in first person.
Yeah.
With Misha, for some reason, I thought of like there's really like upbeat hippie granola girls you can meet sometimes. I knew a lot of those when I lived abroad.
Yeah. That would make sense.
Yeah. Okay. So the next night they eat together, Misha explains she gets her fire magic from Atroxus, the sun god. This is unusual because within the whole pantheon of how this world works, there are the good gods, which they call the White Pantheon, and they all hate Nyaxia, who is of the... What do they call it? The Dark Pantheon? Black Pantheon? I don't know. She's the goddess of vampires.
Yeah. She had to do a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
There's a whole journey.
Yeah, we'll explain that later. So suddenly there's a furious knocking on the door, and it is Angelica, the leader of the Bloodborne house. She immediately starts fighting Rain, and he explains that her vamp was killed because the curse was taking him. And she's like, fine, I'll kill the human when we're in the trial. And Rain's like, oh man, I guess I should have killed her like right now.
Yeah, immediate regret.
Again, he's so cool.
Araya meets Vince under the bridge, and he castigates her for allying with a Rishon vampire. She's like, well, you were no help. And he gets like scary mad, and she walks the statement back. He impresses on her the need to win this competition. Fucking duh. Yeah. And gives her some more medicine.
Medicine.
Gives her some more medicine.
We're all doing a really good job.
Is that like a prescription? So, yes, thanks for reminding me I have to win this win or die competition. We agreed I should enter, like, as if the multiple stab wounds I haven't really made it obvious that is going to be a challenge. Like, this reminded me of when Elena from Throne of Glass needed to tell Selena that she has to win the competition she's in. Like, what the fuck is this a reminder? I mean, okay, it makes more sense, like, for Selena, because she was constantly reading all night and whining all day and, like, spending 3 hours eating grapes in a bathtub. Like, Araya, though, was actively trying to win. Like, she's actively in it. She's trying not to die.
Yeah, how can she try harder than she is?
Yeah, it's just like, fuck off, Vince.
Yeah.
This reminds me, this is such a nerd thing. This reminds me in the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom video games, like, you have tons of side quests that you can do, but the whole time they're like, remember, you need to find Zelda. And you're like, yeah.
It's the name of the game.
Yeah, but you're like, yeah, I know, but I gotta go talk to this Birdman first. Calm down. And they're like, but what about Zelda? Have you seen her? And I'm like, I don't give a fuck about Zelda. I gotta find these golden poops. Please leave me alone.
So she returns to the apartment, and Rain asks her where she was. She tells him to fuck off, essentially.
Yeah, Rain, who are you, her dad?
They sort of make plans to train together, and as he watches the sunrise through a crack in the blinds, she says, doesn't that hurt? And he says, not too bad yet.
He's so cool.
He's very cool. I guess this was fine foreshadowing into his past. Like, it's better than in, like, From Blood and Ash when the MC is like, why are his teeth so oddly sharp? I guess it's nothing.
Yeah, but in From Blood and Ash's defense, like, which I can't believe I'm doing, but the main character was supposed to be naive and, like, know nothing about, like, the vampires. Like, they're supposed to be gone for forever. Like, this feels like actual foreshadowing.
I have thoughts about that.
You know,
but when we get to the From Blood and Ash episode,
we doing it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if we are, but I do have thoughts about that.
But yeah, no, it felt like actual like a little bit more like foreshadowing here. In From Blood and Ash, it was like, are you smarter than our main character? Like, that's
the answer is yes. Yes, you are.
Yeah. Well, some people might not be.
They train together, and for over a week, it goes abysmally. One day, Rain is in a bad mood, and he throws a fit, asking what her problem is, why won't she work with him, while they're, like, actively fighting. He asks if she is afraid of him. Then he realizes that, yes, she is. And he moves closer and closer and closer to her until she freaks out and shoves his chest, at which point blue-white light shoots out of her and knocks him out the tower window.
Nice. I mean, not the crowding part, but the immediate consequences.
I don't know. I kind of love that he got pushed out of a window.
I love that.
It was like the perfect break of the tension, like sexual tension, like fighting tension,
right?
Comedy, perfect way to cut it.
So Rain, of course, has wings. So he flies back in and is like, why didn't you tell me you had magic? And she doesn't reveal that she is also surprised that this happened. So they trade insults. Traitorous Nightborn princes versus Rishon trash before stomping off in different directions. Vince doesn't come to their meeting place, so she wanders the Moon Palace garden and thinks about how she got started killing murderous vamps in the human quarter. She smells tobacco and finds a vampire smoking by the riverside. She bums the smoke, and the vibe is that he's some sort of bookie taking bets on the Kajari. This is not true. We find out this isn't true, but it's like the feeling that she gets at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Araya returns to the tower apartment and chats with Misha. Misha talks about why she likes Rain. They wonder about the next trial, and we learn a little about the goddess Nyaxia and how her domain is this continent after she left the other gods and like fought them, basically. Mm-hmm. And we will see that the trials in this competition mirror the trials that Nyaxia had to go through when she left the White Pantheon.
Mm-hmm. Also in this conversation, sorry, very important, but Araya point blank asks Misha if her and Rain are an item. And then when Misha's like, no, we're just really good friends, Araya immediately pivots to thinking, yeah, Rain looks like he's probably very good at sex. And that's like literally, besides the tense change, what she says. Which, same girl.
Side note, we know the name of this continent. It's called Obiatres.
But the map is awful.
The map is fucking awful. Like, Maura made a special trip to the bookstore to pick up the physical book and look at it.
I did.
I'm so sick of authors putting maps in their books.
I love a map in a book. I absolutely love it, but it's got to tell me something.
It does. It really does. This is like a blob with 2 cities on it. Mm-hmm. And that's it.
I wasn't going to say this. I'm sorry. But the cover feels like it's done by AI.
Oh, that's right. We didn't even talk about the cover. The cover fucking sucks,
The cover's so bad. The cover is so bad. And the map also feels like it's done by AI. There's like there's like the 3 crests of the houses, whatever, on there. And if you look really closely, they're just like weirdly blurry.
Mm-hmm.
But not in the way that like something gets pixelatedly blurry when
the resolution's off.
Yeah, it's like you know, that gross like blurriness when the computer's like, I don't know what a hand is. And then also if you look at like the water versus the land, there's like weird lines on where the land is supposed to be. And I'm like, I feel like you're trying to mimic water, but in the wrong places.
Yeah, it's hard to tell what's land and what's water because it makes it look like where Nyaxia lives is like in the water.
Yeah, there is that. There's that problem. Like, here's her house. Is it in the sea?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Do you remember we were looking online at the Spanish language version? Yes. It was like Casa de Nyaxia.
Yes. And we were all like, this can't be right. And then I go specifically to Barnes & Noble, specifically just for that book, to open it and then leave. And that's what it is.
Didn't you read this on your Kindle?
I did.
Yeah. The map is in the Kindle version.
It wasn't in mine.
Oh. Well,
I don't know.
Again, I'm just privileged.
Later, Rain returns drunk. Araya spies on him and Misha as Misha tells him he was a jerk. He agrees.
You love a self-aware vampire, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone loves that.
Who doesn't?
Trial time. They disappear and reappear in a labyrinth that has black stone walls and a glass roof for A, preventing vamps from flying, and B, allowing spectators to watch as they are back in the Coliseum arena. Mm-hmm. Also, it is misty as fuck in here, maxed out on the fog machines. She sees that one person is in her current section, and it is Ibrahim, the guy who was maimed, but he does still have magic. So they discover that to get out, one of them needs to be a dead weight on like a floor lever that opens a door. So they have to like keep the weight on it for the door to stay open. So they have to fight it out. Araya wins. She drags his lifeless body onto the doorway. He's not dead. He's just unconscious. And then when she gets out, everything starts just like shifting. So Araya starts running in random directions. She kills another House of Shadow magic user. Next, she comes across a field of poppies, which is the flower representing death. I had an issue with this part because she kept describing a sweet smell that ends up being poppies, but like poppies don't actually smell when they're just like a flower out growing in the ground. I've heard that opium and laudanum can smell sweet, but I think that's more about like the process and like when you mix it with other ingredients.
I don't know. I've never taken either.
I have never smelled a poppy.
She runs towards the sound of a fight as she figures that would be the way towards the exit. She sees some more poppies and some oddly red blood, because one thing in this story is that vampires have blood that is nearly black. So red blood means humans. She realizes that there are humans in here. So this whole trial is metaphor. Is that the right word? Is it a metaphor?
Yeah.
Okay. Of when Nyaxia traveled to the underworld, and these humans are here to play the part of the dead, either for aesthetics or a distraction, because the vampires get hungry.
Yeah, I think it's both. But like one thing I really liked about the competitions is how each one is a metaphor for Nyaxia's journey out of the White Pantheon, and I just thought that was a really kind of cool detail, and knitted everything together in a nice solid way. So yay, good job, book.
Yeah, I thought for a first book, the author does a really good job of building like I think religiously focused culture. Also, another thing I think she does well is the snake metaphor. She ties into her writing. Maybe that's just like a personal preference, but she uses it a lot, and I thought it was like very poignant and poetic. She does in the next chapter. She says, Araya says, "I may be the serpent, but even snakes run for cover when hawks soar overhead." This is when she's doing some killing.
Araya sees a little girl who reminds her of herself, a little human girl, and gets hyper fixated on getting this kid out. She gets attacked by a bloodborne, and Rain shows up to peel him off. They get almost to the end, and she thinks he is going to kill her or the girl to trigger the door, and he's like, "Bitch," and grabs an already dead body nearby.
This book is already like very Hunger Games, as we said at the beginning, but this scene with the young girl really like drove that home for me. It just felt, like in the first book when Rue's there.
She's very Rue.
Yeah, you get that little piece of humanity from our main character who's doing a lot of killing. It's kind of like that. Remember, she's a good person.
Which, like, personally, I was like, "No, fuck them kids." Like, in a better circumstance, yeah, save them, but not now.
Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway, I get what they were trying to do.
She waves it off like it's nothing.
People like children.
Yeah, people tend to like kids. Tabitha is a whole other breed, but this was nice.
That's okay. I have a whole group of friends who like don't like kids. It's fine.
So suddenly, Araya is attacked by Angelica, the leader of the Bloodborne, who said she was going to kill her. Angelica. Do you always think of Rugrats too?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I get the song Cynthia. She's a really cool dancer. Cynthia. Like stuck in my head. Like the whole time I read this book, every time Angelica came up, that's what I had stuck in my head.
So Angelica is using blood magic, and blood magic, I don't think I would describe this anywhere else. It's sort of like, okay, have you seen the cartoon Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Hell yeah, I have. Are you kidding me? I'm going to an Avatar: The Last Airbender musical concert.
Okay, so
I read Avatar: The Last Airbender fan fiction.
I forget what they called it, but like when you can
waterbend.
Yeah, when you can waterbend using blood.
Yeah,
it's like that. Basically.
So it's only during the full moon because it's when the water goddess's power. Well, really, it's Tuienla, the fish. But anyways, it's when the the water god power is the most strongest. So you can bloodbend because there's water in your blood.
That's an Avatar. In
yeah,
this,
sorry, not
vampires
not
can just do it. I just mean it's like the same kind of effect. Like they can control the blood that's in their veins and like make them do stuff, like hold them down so they can kill them.
Yeah.
She uses blood magic on Araya and stabs her in the side. Man, her sides are getting just the fuck stabbed out of them.
Yeah, but she has those special potions that like heal everything.
Yeah, she does. But this is like side stabbing number 2.
Yeah.
Because we could count these.
Yeah.
We should have. I feel like this is number 4 because she gets stabbed like at 3 times.
Yeah.
It's at least 3 times she's stabbed in the side. I don't know. I can't remember where she gets.
The second scene, the 4th instance of stabbing.
So she manages to stab Angelica too, and Rain pulls them apart. Araya is super delirious, but makes it through the doorway with the little girl. And as she passes out, she tells Rain not to let them take the girl. So Araya wakes up in the tower apartment, mostly healed. Rain isn't there, but Misha explains that it was the blood magic that fucked her up the most and fills her in on what happened when she passed out. Araya asks about the girl, and Misha has no idea who that is. So upset, Araya leaves. She goes to the human quarter and kills 3 vamps before Rain is like, I've been watching you this whole time. And she thinks he's going to be furious, but he's like, no, those guys were scum. Good job. She asks about the girl, and Rain tells her to follow him. He takes her across the human quarter, and they peep through a window that of an orphanage and see that the girl is there. So Rain did honor her wish.
Daddy Rain.
Yeah, so now this girl won't die in the ring. She'll die in the human quarter instead.
Okay,
Yeah.
God, negative.
I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking too, honestly.
Wow, you guys are such haters. Just getting a shot on like Akawar for 2 whole episodes, so.
She expresses she is confused as to why he cares about humans and isn't more angry at her for killing vamps. He admits that he is a turned vampire and used to be human. It's ultra rare.
Yay.
They banter some more. He apologizes for blowing up on her before the trial, and she refuses to apologize, which makes him laugh. She has an, oh no, he's hot moment. He proposes that they train together by hunting murderous vamps. She agrees.
Also hot.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
She goes to visit Vince by the bridge. He starts to reprimand her and she asks why were humans there. I don't know if this counts as gaslighting, but at first he tries to claim he had no control over it and then pivots to, well, all our lives belong to Nyaxia, human or vampire, so whatever.
He's like the king of gaslighting and I guess gatekeeping as well. But like both of those things are kind of like balled up in quotes into his identity of him being her dad. But it's still bullshit. Like sometimes my parents would be like, no, you didn't see that over there. I'm like, what? I did. Like, you know, that sort of shit. But if he's a king, does that also mean he girl bosses?
Absolutely.
Wow, Vince. Girl boss, gatekeep, gaslight.
Mm-hmm. This is the first part where Araya starts thinking, wait, maybe this is a bullshit system, and the cracks start to appear.
Yes, take the blue pill.
He impresses on her again that only power matters and she needs to win. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
One
Boring
more.
white man shit.
Yeah.
She gets back to the apartment and Rain is watching the sunrise again.
Aww.
Part 4, Half Moon, another flashback. Araya is 16 and realized for the first time that vampires are hot. Girl, same.
Yeah. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, man.
She is able to continue to distrust them, except for one guy that she becomes close with. Will these 2 crazy kids make it?
Find out next time.
Mm-hmm. Araya and Rain start going out every night to kill vampires. Apparently, they are single-handedly saving the human residents of the city who have no other form of protection.
You would think that they'd have at least some neighborhood watch system in place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
right.
Those signs in the real world are bullshit. But if vampires existed, they would be necessary, right?
Yeah, but like, I know what you mean. But the humans are like, they're like in the slums, man, you know?
Yeah.
So they're like the poorest of the poor. They don't have the time or energy or like manpower
You just need a
to
sharpened
create
piece of
a
wood.
night watch.
But like, what are these kids doing running around at night? Like, this is
Yeah.
who's looking after their children if they know that vampires are out there? Like,
Kids are gonna kid. These are latchkey kids, guys. Also, like vampires are in charge of probably the judicial system if there is even one of them. So like, who? If we're in a he said, she said situation, but like human versus vampire, who's gonna get prosecuted for killing whom?
well, that, but
You know?
also like
You know?
maybe neighborhood watch systems would be like illegal.
Yeah, probably.
You can't look out for us.
I mean,
We're gonna come.
these vampires
take the
are
kids.
these vampires are already breaking the rules, and there's
Yeah.
no repercussions. I feel like at that point you would just give up. Nihilism thrives.
I did like that they start out kind of bad at working together, but then it starts to flow and they start to be able to anticipate each other's movements.
Mm-hmm.
It's more realistic in this vampire magic book.
Yeah, SJM, take note.
Yeah, like also, it's so I love her. It's so well done. SJM. That wasn't at you. That was at this. What's this author's name again?
It wasn't
Carissa
for you.
Broadbent.
Carissa Broadbent. I love you. I like you, SJM, just not like that. But like these 2 people have backgrounds in fighting. Like they would be familiar with fighting with another person, so it's not hard for them to learn how to fight with a different person, if you will.
Right.
Again, learn from this, Sarah.
She tries to practice her magic with Misha, but cannot conjure it. Misha tells her that she needs to open up more to like feel it. Meanwhile, Vince is like, nope, close it up, focus. But she doesn't see him very often, and when she does, she can tell that like something bad is kind of happening in the background. He's getting more and more distracted.
Yeah, methinks he is hiding something.
Mm-hmm.
So one night, Araya and Rain realize they have no one to kill, and he takes them to a shitty human tavern. Araya freaks out a bit, both because she is worried about his ability to control himself and because she doesn't know how to act around humans. Rain picks up on both these thoughts and makes fun of her.
Araya, it's called social anxiety.
Yeah. She is surprised by both his lack of bloodlust and by how human he looks in there. They talk about why they joined the Kajari, Rain opaquely, and about how she sees this place as her home and not in the human lands. And Rain is like, why the fuck would Vince, ruler of... Fuck, where does he rule again? Is it all of Obitres or is it just the Nightborn lands?
Girl, who knows?
What the fuck is going on?
He's a king of something. We don't care what.
He's a king of something that everybody wants to be.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
So what Vince did 100 years ago was ask for power of these lands over the Rishan people who ruled it. And that's why he rules it. But I don't know what the lands are is the problem.
It's because the map is
map is also terrible.
Yeah. The name of this city they're in, by the way, is called Sivernage.
Yes.
Whatever.
Anyway, so why the fuck would Vince, ruler of this place, take in a random human child? Rain adds, quote, I think you know precisely where you're going, even when you don't know you do, end quote, which is clear as mud. Thanks, Rain.
But again, he was so cool when he said it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's cool whenever he does anything. Mm-hmm. And now that I know he's Adam Driver, like...
he's cool with his gold sash and his mullet. She starts to snap at him, but then there is a big explosion, which is a great awkward conversation ender.
Should try it sometimes.
They run outside and see that one of the towers, not theirs, on the Moon Palace has blown up. The rest of the palace is filled with lightning-like streaking white-blue light. This is Nightfire, or the magic that is the hallmark of Nightborn vampires. Araya determines that this has to be a calculated attack and that the Rishan rebels must be responsible. Rain is going to fly to the palace, and Araya insists on going with him. She is scared to fly with a vamp, but he holds her gentle like Hamburger, and she marvels at the sights and sensations.
I ask yet again, how are people held while flying? Like, we talked about this in one of the ACOTAR books, but like, if you don't describe it, I'm just going to picture the person flying basically holding the other person underneath their armpits and their little legs dangling. Like, we got to do something better. There's no way I'm picturing anyone being carried bridal style. Like,
it's
those
best
things
not
are
to think
super
about it.
powerful.
I guess. Would you be standing up? Like, if the force of, like, I'm thinking like, okay, you're moving them like your arms. I'm overthinking this now.
Literally no idea. This is the same argument as like where on a centaur is the penis.
Oh my God.
They get to the palace and it's a shit show. In their apartment, Misha is supine, unconscious, and being ripped up by wee demons that apparently come with Nightfire. Rain destroys them with Asteris. I don't know the difference between Asteris and Nightfire. It seems to look the same.
I thought
Yeah,
Asteris
I'm not
was
sure.
like
It has that
Misting
sound effect.
people.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I picture it being like black, like dust.
Okay.
The tower is starting to crack, so Rain flies Misha to safety and is going to come back for Araya. The door to the stairs flies open and more Nightfire comes in along with some demons. A primitive part of Araya sees the energy of the magic around her and uses it to push out her own magic, killing the demons. Rain comes back, takes her down to the ground, and they watch Vince amassing his troops for the beginning of his war.
And Rain rubs her back.
Sure.
All important.
It was like cute and
They
comforting.
touching.
Yeah. They're touching in a
Pat,
non
pat.
like in like a friendly way.
So in the aftermath, 4 contestants were killed in the attack. Several more were injured, including Misha, who is clinging to life. There's also a guy who lost his face.
Ew.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't remember.
Vince gives a big speech about fighting back against the attack and specifically calling out Rishan rebels. Jessamine, Vince's head guard, comes to get Rain for questioning. They are doing that to all Rishan and bloodborne vampires. Araya argues, saying he is her ally for the next trial and that they are currently tied to the goddess Nyaxia. Jessamine swears they will all be returned. Jessamine also shares that the request to have Misha drop out of the tournament is rejected. And she's like, wounded enough she can't participate. Later, Araya uses the last of her medicine to help Misha sleep and then goes to meet Vince. Vince is in full peacock display with his air mark visible and his wings out. Araya is kind of put off by it. By the way, they have air marks that develop when they're the next in line.
They're like tattoos.
Yeah, they're like tattoos, except they like smoke a little bit. Like they give off a little bit of fog all the time.
Can you imagine?
Interesting.
Like,
Could you imagine that always in your face?
Yeah, I know, right? Just constantly like waving your face.
They talk about the rebels, the fighting, and she tries to get his help with Misha, and he tells Araya to just kill her. And then when she's like, hey, my ally might be currently getting murdered by your guard, he's like, that really isn't my purview.
Sounds like a you problem.
Yeah. He seems really impatient with her now.
Yeah, Vince is such a work dad. Like, he's all loving and shit up until he has a reason to go commit a massacre. And he's like, work, work, work all the time.
He actually sounds a lot like my dad. My dad texted me this week, morning, see above, because I didn't respond. We also, like an employee.
Yeah.
Per my last email.
No, truly, I received texts like that, though.
Next, Araya goes to the Temple of Nyaxia. She goes straight to the minister, that 2,000-year-old pervert, and is basically like, if I let you drink my blood, you will let Misha withdraw. He does it.
Most realistic part of this religion and most relatable moment, they're talking about like how everything was set up in this world and when people moved in or whatever. And Araya says, and yet the first thing they did was build a fucking church. Not shelter, not hospitals, a church. What a priority. I hate it here.
Araya wakes up. They have moved to new rooms now. And Rain is back. They go into another room and she sees that he was tortured and that his back is flayed. His wings are fine though, because the wings like appear and disappear as they need them. So she has him kneel over the bed while she cleans and stitches up his wounds. Literally my favorite romance trope.
Yeah, top 5 for sure.
Yeah, I want to see those injuries cleaned.
Yeah, it's okay, I guess.
He tells her to distract him with conversation, and he ends up telling her that Misha had been a human devotee of Atraxis. That's why she can still use fire magic, but it does seem to have finally left her. She was turned against her will, obviously. They complain about vampires together, and he not only won't tell her about how he was turned, but seems to have an old scar on his back that I'm assuming is from an air mark that was cut out, but we don't know that yet.
Yeah, don't get into that. My God.
When you were reading this, did you know that when you were reading? Did you like make that conclusion then or now post reading?
Yeah, at the time.
Yeah, it's like with those things you start stitching stuff together.
I feel like really ignorant. I was like, okay, he has more scars. He was abused as a child.
It's when they spend extra time describing a very specific thing. You can kind of tell that like this is going to mean something later.
Yeah.
And based on the context I already have about air marks.
Yeah.
And the fact he's being cagey, I assume it's going to be an air mark. I'm wrong sometimes when I do these things, but
I just connected it to, again, the fact that he was turned and he was probably turned by someone evil. And I was like, oh, this is going to...
Yeah, the trick is like knowing the external plot, which is, the whole heir of the kingdom and the budding war with Rashan, which he happens to be, all those things together. Oh, what could it possibly be? And then that's where your brain goes. Or mine, anyway.
Here for the vibes, I guess.
Honestly, that's better. Just live in the moment.
I
Don't
love
try to
vibes.
figure it out.
Yeah, the vibes are great in this book.
So they agree to still be allies with each other. They take Misha out of the palace to some friends who can take her out of the city to recover. Then the contestants are summoned for the next trial. They all drink a potion and black out.
Awesome.
Same, been there. Araya has some sort of nightmare and comes to feeling super disoriented and hearing another voice in her head. The potion has created a psychic link between the allied contestants. They are on opposite sides of the wall with doorways on the top. There's like a big hill they got to go up. And between them and the wall and the hill, there's a whole bunch of monsters. They need to both make it to the doors to win.
I hate how my brain works. The second you were explaining that again, I was like, this would be a perfect porn with plot fan fiction. I'm never going to write it, but I'm just saying, I'm like, I bet this is out there.
Probably. They soon realize that if one contestant is injured or killed, their ally is affected. So when Rain is getting attacked by someone, Araya finds that vampire's ally near her and kneecaps him and then kills him, which stops Rain's attacker.
So it took me a bit to figure out what was going on in this competition. I don't know why, but each time it switched around, I was like, I need to take like a full 10 minutes to figure out exactly how this is working. But I did wind up really thinking it was pretty inventive.
Yeah.
All of them are actually really inventive, which I just really enjoyed. So again, good job, book.
Again, she does like a good job of tying, because these are all supposed to be like metaphors, as we've said, for
Nyaxia.
Thank you. Nyaxia's like journey to becoming a evil god, if you will. And they're all just like great metaphors for a made up religion.
Later, while fighting Angelica's ally Ivan, he stabs Araya in the side and throws her to the monsters. Her fucking sides, man.
No, she needs better armor for her sides.
Is that 5 now?
It's like 4 or 5.
Feels like 4 or 5.
Too many.
So there she is in a pile of monsters, stabbing away.
Again.
Yeah,
again.
Thinking she's going to die. And Rain is mentally shouting at her to use her magic. That she needs to tap into her primal fear that she does it. She spent like her entire life repressing her fear. So she does it. She taps into it, and then the emotion turns into rage, and she's able to release it in such a huge wave of night fire that it kills all the beasts and some of the vamps near her.
Good for her.
Yeah. She gets to the doorway, and Rain greets her and hugs her.
Aww.
Yeah, sweet.
She looks out at the audience and sees Vince, who looks super freaked out.
Like, oh no, his secret might get out, whatever that might be.
Okay, part 5, Crescent Moon. Another interlude, another flashback. Teenage Araya and her vamp boyfriend decide it's time to fuck. They start doing it, and unfortunately, he has performance issues, by which I mean he gets the blood frenzy and tries to kill her. She pushes him off. He seems to be horrified as he comes to, but she is already running, crying to Vince.
And I'm sure Vince, champion of level-headedness, will take this in stride, right?
Yeah, he definitely won't. Just thinking he's like my dad. But did she run to him naked?
I assume she grabbed her sheet.
Oh, okay.
I imagine it very dramatic with like her hair all a tussle, holding a like black satin sheet around her body and like running through the halls like this. Yeah.
Black satin sheet.
Bleeding as she goes.
Yeah. Delicately bleeding from the neck.
Yes.
With her blonde hair.
Yeah. With her blonde hair that only I see. So after this, 11 contestants remain, and everyone is sort of looking at Araya thinking, what the fuck was that? There is a feast, and the magic of the Moon Palace is pampering them. It leaves Araya a single dress to wear. This is our dress description passage that exists in every Romantasy book. So if we want a description of the book,
Yes.
I didn't save the quote, but it's purple, it's smooth and flowy, and kind of slutty, non-derogatory. The straps are chains, and it has a low-cut back. And once again, to mention Baldur's Gate, seems like something Shadowheart would wear.
Yeah, it does.
So again, take note, SJM, because that's like, at least she's really like walking into it. You know, she likes this at least. She's not like, I suppose some females might like this.
True. She has a part where she's like, I have always actually wanted to wear a dress like this.
She's like totally into it.
I was confused at first. I was like, I feel like this dress would fit in with the SJM dresses. They all feel like, again, slutty. In this case, derogatory. But
see, it's the derogatory that like you have to draw that line, right?
But yeah, like I feel like most of SJM's dresses are like huge, high slit, very low front and low back. You know, you expose what you want to expose, just not my personal taste. I grew up in a slightly puritanical household.
Some of the Nightborn court are at the party, including Vince, who asks to dance with her. He seems worried about her, looking forward to her success, but also a little distracted and unhinged. Araya goes looking for Rain in the gardens and finds the guy she bummed a smoke off of earlier. Turns out he is a House of Blood prince named Septimus. He's relevant later, I swear it. I was really wondering at this point.
Same, hard same.
Yeah. Rain finds them, has a weird exchange with Septimus that we have no context for yet, and he and Araya decide to leave. They go back to the tavern in the human quarter to drink shitty ale. They talk about, you know, stuff. Ilana, that Araya would want to be turned, essentially. Not really, but kind of, etc. And Rain still reveals nothing about himself.
Like, Araya, dear heart, I know you have a bad track record with men, but you gotta take some hints here.
Yeah.
When a man is being that opaque, like, you gotta take the hint.
So they walk down by the river, and there is this whole thing where he like has her set his sword to the side and opens his shirt so you can look at his immaculate pecs, or I guess his wound from the trial. The entire performance is to give Araya the opportunity to kill him, and she doesn't. He's trying to like show her something. So they decide to mutually not murder each other and keep living and training together.
Yeah, so there's that whole thing like running through the book that like they may or may not have to kill each other or will kill each other immediately after the ally thing is done. But by this point, I had kind of forgotten about that entirely. So I was like, wait, why is he doing this? Why is he showing her his pecs in the middle of this alley? What the hell is happening?
That never left my mind, man. That tension was running through me. I was stressed for them in every moment. I was like, no, don't like each other. You're going to have to die.
Yeah, see, it never occurred to me that they're going to have to kill each other.
I read a lot enemies to lovers type shit. So this was like, I was on the edge of my seat. I mean, and that tension is why this part is so juicy. Like, it's not just, an amazing capital O opportunity to show off his bod, but also, like, it's his way of saying non-verbally that he trusts her. And then she's, like, reciprocates it. And you're like, oh, my God, why is this so hot?
No, absolutely.
Emotional intimacy without words, my favorite.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I think it was, like, my brain had just gone so down into, like, this is vampire Hunger Games.
Yeah.
So they can't possibly kill each other. They're basically friends now, right? Like, they'll find a way.
I know. I think I totally forgot how the actual Hunger Games finishes because I was like, one of them has to die.
Well, remember, this is what happened to me in, what's that fucking dragon book we read?
Fourth Wing?
Yeah, Fourth Wing. Where they didn't have sex until, like, the end of the book, and when it happened, I was like, oh my God, I forgot that that's a thing that people do.
Yeah.
Ugh, and then the lightning.
So then for the next couple weeks, they live together. He cooks. He says he's going to visit Misha, and she asks to go with him. I do always find the question of do vampires eat and how it is addressed differently.
Mm-hmm. I liked it in here.
I love it when the vampires eat. I think it's one of the things that, I don't know, when they eat, I think that makes them more human. But also, like, why wouldn't they eat? They're, like, supposed to be, like, the human equivalent of, like, all things sexy and interesting. And, like, eating is part of that.
Yeah,
eating can
so
be sexy, right?
Yeah.
So, like...
Hot dogs.
Yeah.
Bananas. Ice cream. Popsicles.
I don't really have a preference.
Salad.
I don't really have a preference for whether or not they eat in fiction. I just always like it talked about because of the variation. Like, I remember in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it was, like, very rarely a jest. Like, we knew Angel didn't eat, but there was one time, I think it was while they were holding Spike captive, that he's complaining to Giles because he ate his Weetabix. And Giles is like, you don't eat food. Don't you eat just blood? And he's like, well, yeah, but I like to crumble the Weetabix up in the blood for some texture.
Doesn't he eat a blooming onion at one point?
Well, there's another point where he's in the car with Buffy and he's trying to get her to stop and buy him chicken wings.
Yeah. So he does
amazing.
eat. He's eating for fun.
He's eating for fun. And I think the reason Angel didn't eat is because Angel fucking hates life and everything in it. And
Angel,
it's a misery to be
Angel
in
is a misery. He's absolute broody hero.
Is he the white-haired one?
No, that's Spike.
Spike is the white-haired one. Yeah.
Sorry.
They fly for several hours outside the city to a homestead.
This is the scene where they fly forever.
I'm sorry, but isn't multiple hours an insanely long time to ride a flying dude? Like, how do you hang on that long? Are you clinging to his back, horsey style, or are you just like grabbing on like a baby bat?
I don't know.
Yeah, plus they only have one night to do this, and they have to be back by morning. So Araya is often just barely back to the Moon Palace by dawn when she goes to visit Vince. They do a lot of travel for their time constraints in this book. So, like, not only is he having to carry her all this way.
Yeah, also, when does this girl sleep?
Yeah, when is sleeping happening?
I think it's during the day.
Yeah, but, like, she does shit during the day sometimes. I don't know. I think I ignored it, but also I'm now going to say, I think it's, like, in Bride, when she like kind of sleeps like mid-afternoon to night or like to midnight,
Misha is thrilled to see them. The people looking after her less so. Araya eavesdrops and hears them call her Vincent's whore, and Rain snaps at them.
Yeah, that's super fucked up considering their actual relationship.
Yeah, but
So they fly back, and I don't know what the point of this chapter was. I really think it's just to show that Rain continues to not talk about himself and that his friends seem to hate Araya, which is something we find out more about coming up.
Yeah, it's totally to point out that he has allies for the upcoming reveal. Yeah.
So the next day, the doors of the Moon Palace are locked, so they can't get out. Also, the food doesn't refill. After 5 days, a contestant tries to fly out, and some magic basically shreds him to death.
Hardcore.
Araya stays in her apartment because the vamps are desperate for blood. Rain has a bunch of blood stashed, so he's still cool. Araya uses mirrors to create some sort of safe sunrise viewing angle for Rain, and it is, I assume, the first nice thing she has ever done for someone in her entire life.
That is correct. I mean, aside from saving humans from getting eaten, I guess.
I feel like that's more about her dislike of vampires.
Yeah.
Still.
Her first, like, selfless thing.
Eventually, though, Rain's blood supply runs low after a couple of weeks, and he starts tweaking. Araya's like, okay, time for us to stay apart. And Rain's like, how dare you assume I'm an uncontrollable animal? They argue, and Araya tries to explain it isn't personal, it's just the nature of the situation. Rain is huffy, but he locks himself away.
I kind of like him when he's cranky.
Yeah, he actually was pretty attractive when he was cranky. Which is surprising because usually when male main characters start doing that, I like immediately I'm like, nope, done.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, great, you're a misogynist now.
Araya is having a dream that seems to be a childhood flashback again about vamps destroying her city. But she wakes suddenly, laying in the woods with some sort of caustic smoke burning her lungs and skin. She kills one vamp who's got the bloodlust, and then watches 2 vampires eating a deer, but then suddenly turning on each other and killing each other. Turns out the animals have been poisoned, so when the blood-crazy vampires eat the poisoned animals, they get even more fucked up.
Also cool. I mean, okay, I usually enjoy the interpersonal stuff that happens between action scenes and books, but that really wasn't the case here. I liked all of it.
Yeah, it was good.
She finds Rain and sees him trying to catch a deer and throws herself onto him to stop him. They tussle, she threatens to stab him, and it's enough to make him come back to himself. He's injured, so they awkwardly limp to safety. They find a cave just in time for sunrise. He's weak and wounded, and there's nothing to eat, so Araya starts taking her top off. Rain is like, oh god, no, stop. She tells him his options are to eat her or die. So she straddles his legs, puts a dagger at his chest, and tells him he can drink. He keeps telling her she is in control, and he will stop. He bites her, and it is super sexy. Vampire venom can make people feel drunk and horny, and boy, does she. He gets hard too, so they grind together until Araya drops the dagger and orgasms. Vince would be so disappointed.
Who cares about him? It was hot as hell. And I have so many highlights from this chapter. I was scrolling through them earlier and I was like, God, what happened in this chapter? And then I was like, oh, that's what happened in this chapter. It was hot.
She tells him she wants more, sex that is. But he says that they'll get into it later because maybe it's just the venom talking right now. So they fall asleep.
But also, like, how hysterical would it be if they were like, hey, female vampire Jesus, I know we're, like, doing this battle to the death in your honor, but, like, we got to make time to fuck each other. So, time out.
I think she'd be for that.
Probably.
You know what I mean?
Maybe.
She'd be all for it. She's like, yeah, just do that. Do that for a while. It's cool.
They wake up, and Araya is the little spoon. Rain is...
Why would she not be the little spoon? She's smaller.
Maybe he's just never held. Maybe he wants to feel held. Rain is much better after the blood. She doesn't want to talk about all the grinding, and they're in the middle of a fucking trial. So they plot how to get through this.
I kind of love her. Like, please don't talk about it. Please, let's not talk about it. Let's just move on. Business as usual.
They realize that the smoke, fog, mist thing rolls in at a particular rhythm, so they can time their travel for the intervals and use a thick cloak stolen from a dead bloodborne to protect themselves from the burning air.
This is like the clock setup of the I don't know, Colosseum in the second Hunger Games book/movie.
Yeah, like the more I look at these trials now, the more I'm like, yeah, she kind of did pull a little bit too much from
some
the
of
Hunger
them.
Games.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other ones are pretty still inventive. So, yeah.
Yeah. I will say, I feel like there's only so many trials you can be, like, original for.
Yeah, true.
She does do the Labyrinth one way better than Harry Potter.
Big progress to a gate that Rain can see in the distance. They get attacked by some wolves and kill them, just as an aside. So, okay. First, they were in a half-dead forest, and now they're basically like in a wasteland. Rain is looking around, and he picks something up off the ground, and it's a street sign. He tells her that this is Salinae.
Such a good twist.
She doesn't believe him at first. Salinae was the city that she was found in and had done research on for years, hoping to return to find her human family. It was one of the largest cities in the House of Night lands, but she realizes that this is indeed it, and she is standing in its ruins. Given that it was a Rishon stronghold at one point, Vince has obliterated it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's probable she wouldn't have realized he destroyed the city given how young she was. But it also seems to me like it should have been a worry she had given how the world works here. You know what I mean? Like, she knew where she came from. Yeah. So I am just curious about, like, where her mind was. Like, what did she think had happened to the city? Like, he had just been like, no, Pat, I didn't do anything terrible.
Yeah, I feel like up until this point, it wasn't really talked about. I mean, and maybe I just missed it. What specific city she was found in? It was just in those lands that were, you know, like the rebel ones. Mm-hmm. So I just thought she figured it was like some war or battle, like, you know, not necessarily one. I mean, I guess he led it, but I don't know. I was naive as well, Araya, is all I'm saying.
I just don't understand how this continent works.
Yeah.
No.
Altogether, what does the map mean, you guys?
Mm-hmm. Biggest gripe with the whole book.
Yeah.
The map sucks.
So while distracted by the horrors, they are attacked by Ivan, quickly followed by Angelica. They fight, and Rain throws Ivan into a wall of acid smoke. Angelica screams in a way that makes me assume that they were lovers.
Yeah, I think it was alluded to.
Yeah. Araya and Rain run through the air that is trying to kill them, then through the gate, and they land in the Colosseum. The stand's empty this time. The only other contestant is now there, and it's Ibrahim, somehow. The minister is like, congrats, new plan. The final trial is tomorrow. They ask why, because, you know, normally it's 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And he says that Sivranaj, the city, Sivranaj may not exist in 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. They look around and realize that there are bodies of Rishon vampires with their wings basically severed and crucified all along the Colosseum walls. That's what Vince has been up to these past 3 weeks that they've been locked in the Moon Palace.
Yeah, you know, just some casual mass murdering.
Yeah. So, part 6, New Moon. Interlude. Flashback to the aftermath of the bad sex. Vince takes Araya to her lover, bound and kneeling. The guy tries to apologize as he was a brand new vampire and had no idea that the bloodlust would take him like that. I kind of felt for him. Vince, however, is there to show Araya how to kill a vamp. It is both a practical lesson and her punishment for trusting a vampire other than him. Looking back over the years, Araya thinks this is an important lesson, but a little messed up. Man, I would like her to work this incident out with a therapist.
Yeah, it was a huge downer when I realized that he really was sad about the whole thing. He's like, I really didn't mean to do this. Yeah. Holy shit. And it's like, nope, sorry, we're going to murder you right here. And Nora was like, this was an important lesson.
Yeah, because, like, I get that she was scared, but she could have talked it out with him once he was rational.
Right.
And they could have figured out how to move forward with their relationship. Mm-hmm. And she wouldn't have been stuck with this, like, absolute terror that she was for years. But that's what Vince wanted.
Exactly.
They get back to their rooms, sort of shell-shocked, but they start talking about what they saw, i.e. a city of 500,000 people wiped off the map. Rain starts raging about Vincent, and although she is confused and angry, she jumps to defend Vince and admits that he knew she was going there once she had the Coriatus bond. And Rain is like, the what? He tells her that's the worst idea, that Vince is using her, and to question why he fears her so much. She bails and goes to Vince's palace.
Run to daddy, little girl.
She demands to see Vince and tells him she knows about Salinae. He admits that he wasn't planning to tell her and that finding her family was no more than a childish fantasy she would grow out of. Then shows her that he is using the humans of his territory to feed his army.
He's a dick.
He goes off on a rant about how humans are nothing but livestock and that she is so much better than them because of how she was raised. I feel like this whole scene was akin to, like, finding out your dad is a Trump supporter. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, I saw this weird comment you left on Facebook, and he responds, if I can't shoot immigrants on sight, then I'm going to crash my car into the Pentagon. She basically says she is ashamed to be his daughter, and he grabs her and throws her against the wall while telling her she is only something because of him, and does she want to be his enemy, thus completing his tasks in the Bad Dad workbook.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I know. He really went like...
She's upset, he's regretful, but she still leaves. She goes to the human quarters, starts killing vamps. She realizes that the slums are really just a breeding pen for the vamps.
Jesus Christ.
That's why they don't care about people killing them.
Yeah.
Rain finds her. He's mad about her bruises from Vince. They argue because it is nearly done and he doesn't want her to get disqualified for not being back. She's like, why do you even care? And he's like, you know why. And then they kiss.
Fucking finally. Actually, I'm kidding. I liked how this book drew its romance beats. Like, I'm not going to go off on like an unhinged rant like with the Sarah J. Maas books. I will not go there. But, I mean, it had the right amount of tension, and that Cave Orgasm did a good job prepping for this.
Mm-hmm. Are you admitting that this author properly edged you?
Yes, I'm admitting it. Shut up.
So they make out in a filthy alley next to a corpse and then fly back to the Moon Palace.
Where do people in medieval-esque fantasy worlds make out, if not a dirty alleyway or a broom closet?
So they start undressing. She touches his wing and he gasps. She asks if they are ticklish and he says kinda and puts them away. So I guess this means once again that wings are an erogenous zone.
I hate it.
He goes down on her.
Good.
She orgasms. I immediately wonder if they bathed after the last trial.
Have they bathed at all is the question.
They didn't.
I don't know.
So then she rides him, so she has the control. They finish and decide to do it again.
So cute that they're like, I think we should do it again. They're like, yeah. Totally. Let's do it again.
Rain finally talks about his past a bit. He was a human in a shipwreck, got to shore, and was captured by a vampire lord, turned and basically made a slave. There's like an implication in this story that he was raped by this lord, which is like, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, he also has like a wife and a child that they don't
previously while he was human.
Yeah.
So this guy who turned him, the Empire was failing, and Rain manages to kind of get out in the end days of it. He travels a bunch, wished he had done more for the Rashan, and eventually joined the Kajari because Misha did it first.
Also, he like had a fling with this lord's wife.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a part I read, and I was like, is this relevant? And I was like, nah.
I will say, I kind of don't, I mean, it's a hot take. I don't really love that Rain had like a second family.
Well, they're long dead.
I know they are, but like, as someone who doesn't really want to be a stepmom, and that's kind of like in the dating situation I am, it's a high probability I could be one. So, a lot of single dads out there, but
the thing is,
puts a weird taste in my mouth.
The thing is, like, once you introduce the fact that he has a kid in a world where immortality exists,
right?
That then brings up the fact that this kid could potentially become a vampire and be introduced later as a love interest of some other person.
Yeah.
That's where my brain goes immediately because that's what the Vampire Diaries did. But regardless, like, are they dead? We'll find out.
They better be. Sorry to them, these fictional characters, but I hope you did.
So they like praise each other and how great they are, and then agree to fight to the death. The remaining contestants, which are Araya, Rain, Angelica, and Ibrahim, meet the minister.
Say it however you want. It's a fake word.
And enter the portal. All right, so Araya is in an enclosure with 3 like zombie type people.
Sure.
They are made to be representations of the god Nyaxia fought in the White Pantheon. So there is Atraxus wielding fire, Ix with a bow, and Kashmar, god of seduction and music, who is using like sound against her. She goes after Kashmar first and sees that the like body is the man that Rain killed that first night. So all of these people representing the gods are dead contestants reanimated just for some spooky flair.
So this is for sure Hunger Games code, but like, yeah, okay, sure.
I remember so little of the Hunger Games. I don't remember any of
my
this.
God,
so
really?
At the end of the Hunger Games, the
Hunger
very
Games.
last like thing that they do is like all the dead contestants kind of come back and start attacking her as like mutts. They're like, they've been turned into these hybrid animal monsters.
Their faces get like superimposed on these like dog crazy things that are just called mutts.
Yeah.
Absolutely no memory. Stabbing doesn't work because they're dead, so it doesn't matter if you go for the heart. So she goes after the spell bottle in his throat, assuming like that's the way this magic works. She decapitates him and the glass shatters and that stops him. Then she cuts off Ix's hands and takes her bow. She uses night fire to light an arrow and then fires into Atraxas' chest to kill him. Good job. That done, the door opens and she exits. She looks at Vince in the stands and feels complicated. Like, he is a mass murderer and lied to her for years, but that's her daddy. Ibrahim comes out behind her, somehow still alive. The audience laughs at how physically fucked up he is. Like, this isn't amazing that this disabled vampire made it to the end of this competition, was one of the, like, last 4 people. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but these amazing. People are bullies and they're evil.
Yeah,
these people are assholes.
Yeah.
So Araya tells him they will have a fair fight. And right before she kills him, he says that he's glad it's her doing it.
It was, like, kind of sweet in a weird way.
Yeah, it was. Rain comes out next, and soon after that, Angelica. They all pause awkwardly. Then Araya and Angelica go for each other. It's a long fight, but eventually Angelica has her pinned and is about to kill her, and then she sees Rain, and then Angelica look to something in the stands. In that second, the blood magic slips, and Araya manages to kill her. Her and Rain kind of stare at each other romantically, but they promise to see it to the end, so then they fight.
Like, good for this book for taking everything to extremes. I was really expecting them to do some refusal thing like in the Hunger Games, especially since there are so many Hunger Games type of things happening.
Yeah.
But they just throw down, so color me surprised. Again, good job, book.
I know, I was really worried there that there was going to be like a, oh no, here it's some berries that I pulled out of my pocket. But I don't know, I knew in my heart of hearts that it wasn't going to end this way, so I was tense the whole time. I was like...
Another long fight, but this time, because they both know each other's style and are both hesitating to cause damage, they're both eventually like, oh my fucking god, just do it to each other, and they both start using magic.
Yeah, because like negs are on.
Yeah. She sees Rain fighting with no mercy, taps into her rage, and manages to get him pinned. She hesitates, he tells her to do it, and she kills him. She kills him like for reals.
For real. He
just
is
in
dead,
case you thought she was just being dramatic. No, it's for real.
Yeah,
she kills him dead.
He's not just like passed out or mostly dead. He is for reals dead.
Yeah, 100%. Not coming back from that death.
Yeah.
Well.
So everyone starts celebrating, and she's having an "oh god, what have I done" moment.
Yeah.
The minister tells her to greet her goddess, and Araya feels the air shifting. Nyaxia descends. The quote for this chapter is, "She was not a person. She was an event."
How did you picture Nyaxia when she showed up?
So they described her as being like naked and with pale skin and dark hair, and I didn't imagine her like Char.
Okay, that's exactly how I imagined her. Her tits are always out.
Yeah, that's true. She did look a lot like Char. I've seen a lot of like Wiccan kind of art of moon goddesses that are like that, and that's kind of how I imagined it.
Would you
she just comes down, tits out.
It's been too long since I read the book to remember what I was thinking.
That's okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Nyaxia greets Araya, who is in awe. She asks Araya what her prize will be. Nyaxia also picks up on Araya's grief and tells her that maybe it's better because a dead lover can't break your heart. Araya thinks on her wish. Does she really want to continue this cycle of cold, cruel violence? Is it worth it to set aside love for power? She looks at Vince and tells Nyaxia she wishes that Rain had won.
So I love the twists from here on out. I clocked a lot of them, but this one I didn't expect. I'm not like Tabitha level twist finder, but yeah, I like this one a lot.
I was like gasping from here on out in like a good way. I read like a shitty book series that I was like gasping, but only because the twists were so unbelievably stupid. But yeah, this one I was like, oh my god, it was great. I was here for it. I was eating it up.
Rain comes back to life. He looks at Araya before he looks at Nyaxia. Teehee. Nyaxia tells him he is the victor of the Kajari, and he is horrified. Rain takes a long time to answer, and Nyaxia looks delighted by these events in a way that does not bode well. Rain wishes that he was restored as the turned heir of the Rishon king. Everything goes white and then black, and then she sees Rain, now with red-tipped wings, which is like a ruler thing, and an air mark on his back, standing next to Vince.
Hot.
The crowd starts to flee, and Araya tries to run to them, but is held back. Rain has more power than Vince now, so he looks regretfully at Araya, tells her not to watch, and then kills Vince. Araya watches the whole thing.
Oh my.
Okay, well, Vince isn't quite dead, because Araya runs to him.
And not 100% dead.
No.
Yeah, 100%. He's not dead for reals. He's dead for fakes.
I had a thought.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be upset with me.
Mm-hmm.
This is literally the scene where Kylo Ren kills Han Solo and
Okay.
Rey watches the whole time.
There it is. It always comes back to Reylo fanfiction. We knew it all along.
No, that happens in the movies.
So I thought of
Okay.
Well, but still Reylo
no,
fanfiction.
I thought of Vincent as like the what's his face, Luke Skywalker.
Yeah,
Kind
sure,
of,
yeah,
a little bit.
yeah. I mean, he's more evil, which like kind of like, you know, Luke gets like a weird twist in the second sequel movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's not fully evil. He just like does a bad thing.
Okay, so Araya runs to Vince. He says he made mistakes, but he loves her, and then he dies for reals. Araya is in a rage. She tries to burn Rain with Nightfire, and he just holds her.
Yeah.
Suddenly, there is a burning in her chest and neck, and an air mark appears on her skin.
Gasp.
Yeah. All right. Part 7, Night. We've stopped with the interludes at this point. One of Rain's...
Is there an interlude before this one?
No, there's not.
Oh, okay.
So one of Rain's people, he has people, FYI, tells him to kill her immediately, which is like good plan, practically speaking.
Yeah.
Everyone starts agreeing. Then Rain holds her to him and says no. He's going to marry her, keep her nearby so that no other Hajj heir exists while she lives, and to, quote, make sure it hurts when I fuck her, just like it did when he raped our queen 200 years ago, end quote. Super fucked up.
Yeah, I didn't love that.
Yep.
I was mad.
Yep.
He tells them all to go retake the city, and when they are alone, he apologizes to her. She says she hates him, and as his magic puts her to sleep, he says, there she is.
No.
This is a through line in the book. Whenever Araya acts fierce, he says, there she is, which I personally find more condescending than romantic.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm not a big fan of pet names to begin with. And when men feel the need to point out when their love interest lady is being bloodthirsty with this pet language, it seems both like infantilizing and almost like permission to be her true self, which she for some reason needs him particularly to tell her, even though she already is violent and fierce. And like, see, every time Xaden calls Violet violence.
Yeah. I'm gonna be a hypocrite here. I liked it.
Sure. I mean, I think that's the intent. You're supposed to think it's cute.
It's not bad. It's
No.
just like when you start drilling into the patriarchy, you're like, it is bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have our exposition chapter. Araya wakes up in her room and stares at her air mark for a while in the mirror. And then Rain comes in and she lunges at him, biting and scratching. And he's like, will you stop? And she's like, oh, what? So you can rape me? He said that
It's not funny.
He said he only said that to protect her and to get her out of that situation. So he explains that he was a prisoner/slave to the former Rishon king, like he said, the one that Vincent used his Kajari wind to depose. Apparently, Rain struck a deal with the Hajj so he could escape, but of course, the Hajj ended up killing people that they had promised not to. As he escaped, the air mark formed on his back. He burned it away himself. So I was right earlier when I said that spot on his back.
Yeah,
you were totally
like
right.
the air mark. Yes, yes, thank you.
One more time. She's right, everybody.
She's a
Tabitha's
god,
right
everyone.
about everyone.
Araya asks if he used her on purpose in the Kajari, and he seems hurt by that. He's like, I just like you. She asks why the House of Blood is still at the palace, and he explains that Septimus, so like, yeah, he does have a point, found out he was the heir and kept pushing himself to be an ally. He kept saying no, which is to say Rain kept saying no, even after the attack on the Moon Palace, which was probably done by the House of Blood, but they can't prove it. But then Angelica was about to kill Araya, and that's what that whole looking into the crowd and nodding part was Rain was agreeing to ally with the Bloodborne to save Araya. He tells her she should have left him for dead. He asks if she knew she was the heir. She says it must be a mistake because she's human. He asks questions about why he went to that, which is to say Vince. Why did Vince go to that specific house in a destroyed city to find her? That maybe there is something unusual in her heritage. That they'll look into it after the wedding. She's like, fuck you, you killed my daddy. He says they have to or she will be killed by the Rishon. She's like, great, cool, super glad the evil king was defeated and there's no tyranny now.
/ sarcasm.
They get married in her room. It's a vampire ceremony, blood licking and whatnot. Rain says his vows, but Araya can't get through all of hers, and he says that's cool. Afterwards, she asks to be alone. Rain looks broken and sad, but leaves, locking her in. Much later, she hears a tap on her window, and it is Jessamine, scaling the walls Dracula style. Jasmine asks what her orders are, and Araya remembers that she is now the ruler of a fucking people and tells her basically whatever you think is best. Araya will stay there and gather intel, particularly because a turned vampire will not be popular as a ruler, so they think they can, like, infiltrate Rain's court.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know. Jasmine was like a weird bitch earlier.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so now you're just...
Well, Jasmine says that more than anything else, she is loyal to the
whatever they're called.
Hodge clan.
Yeah, I know.
So now she's loyal to Araya.
Yeah, so she's not going to be like cooing or anything.
Yeah.
Whatever. She still sucks.
Rain takes her to, I don't know, it's like fucking royal court or something. Like, they all just hang around in a big fancy room. Septimus comes up to talk to her and is generally slimy. Rain collects her and they look over the night. She says, "What now?" And he says, "Time to build a kingdom, I guess." He then asks if she is going to kill him, and she says, "Not tonight."
Cute.
Yep. That's it. That's the book. All done. So, for the wrap up, I like this book. It was definitely long, and there's some complicated world building. Like, there were certain scenes I had to read over and over again to figure out what the fuck they were actually talking about.
Yeah.
But the pacing was good, and even the info dumps, like the lore dumps, came at times that felt natural to the story. You know, like it wasn't in the Akatar books where they're just suddenly monologuing at her their life stories.
Hey, if we put this in quotes, you'll read it.
Yeah, it felt like the right time to tell you this information throughout the book. There's a lot in this book about Araya's internal battles that I kind of glossed over for the sake of time. But I think this is one of the first kind of like prickly, closed off protagonists we've read for this podcast where I fully understand why she is like that and agree that she should be. Literally everyone around her wants to kill and eat her. I couldn't always get a read on why Rain liked her so much, but I think that's more of just a me issue of not understanding how attraction works again. So I'll give it a pass.
Yeah, I also liked it. This is probably the first book in a long while where I actually enjoyed the action scenes, which I can't explain, so I won't try. Araya as a character worked for me. As Tabitha said, she had reasons to be prickly and closed off, and she has a very traumatic background that keeps her from asking too many questions for fear of her own life being in danger. So you can kind of buy how she doesn't understand how certain things happened in history or just didn't know of them to begin with. The world building is super complicated, but I also think it works because it didn't get too bogged down in unnecessary details at this point. I am assuming the author will expand the world as she gets into the different houses and their stories, so that map might actually get something written on it, which I'd be into reading. So for a self-published novel, and this is not to say self-published novels are bad, but like I was really impressed by it. I thought it was really well done and well edited and very compelling. I'm going to read more.
I loved it. I had just finished taking notes for ACOWAR, and I was like, I can't. I was in such a slump. It took me like 3 months to get through ACOWAR. But this book truly got me out of that slump. I was excited. I was enthralled. I was, as I said, gasping, kicking my feet. I was liking it. You did bring it up, but I don't really know why Rain likes her besides, like, I don't know. She's got some spunk to her. So that's true. The one thing I did not love was there's like not a great explanation of the differences between the houses, and the map didn't really add anything to that. So that part was quite messy for me. And also I like glossed over the first 3 chapters. But I thought the world building was pretty unique for a vampire story. I don't know. I guess I don't read that many compared to Tabitha, so she can tell me if that's right or wrong. But it was an interesting take. I know we called out Hunger Games a lot, but it wasn't, for me, similar enough to feel like, ugh, this is just a Hunger Games remake. Like the combination of the vampire religion and like the trials was interesting and unique that I was like, oh, cool. And I've already started reading the next one. I'm like reading like 2 pages at a time though, because I'm supposed to be reading like 4 other books. So it's taking me forever to get through. But the tension's there in the next one too. It's cute.
All right. So moving on. Who are we? I think we all really struggled with this one. Yeah, Maura.
I passed entirely. I was like, I can't do this. I just like crumpled like a sad little flower, and I was like, nope, done. Can't. There's no one here that I can be. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Moving on to somebody else.
Emma.
It took me a bit, and it wasn't until I had said I couldn't figure it out that I realized I think I'm definitely Araya. Not because I suffer from main character syndrome, but I also realize at a younger age that my super strict and religious parents were causing me problems in my life, and there's better things out there. And I also caught having sex with a boy that I shouldn't have. So I get you, Araya. Get a good therapist. That's my advice.
Well, I definitely don't think I'm a contestant. Like anybody who did that, because I would never do that. Maybe one of those humans that's killed during the first night in the Moon Palace.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick like a name character, you know what? I think I'm going to say I'm Nyaxia. I make everyone listen to uncomfortably personal lore, and then I make my past issues everybody's problem.
Wait, I actually know who you are. You'd be Alana. Tell me you wouldn't be. You would be some like spinster woman with like, you know, sewing or you have a sewing machine or like knitting in your house. You would love to have the vampires just be around you, loving you, feeding off of you, smoking a cigarillo.
Especially if their bites like make you horny.
That's
too.
what I'm saying.
Sure, why not?
You'd be talking about pineapples and other people would be like, "What, Grandma?"
Also died in the first chapter. Yeah. It sounds like something that would happen to me.
Perfect.
I say this all with love.
Yes. No, I think you're right.
It's okay. I'm the main character with religious trauma, so.
And Maura's no one.
I'm no one. No one look at me. I wasn't here.
Don't perceive me.
All right. So that's all of this. Sorry, it's so long.
It is a long one.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Our apologies.
Never apologize.
No.
No.
All right. Bye.
Bye.